You welcome expats in Paris, and you know that integration is key for a successful expatriation. It's key for the expats, of course, but it's also key for the spouses. And so it's good to help them feeling at home in France. So here in this new podcast of Your Expat in France, we are going to speak with Julie. Julie is an expat spouse here in Paris, in Paris. And she arrived 1 year ago. So just to introduce, do you know that 80% of expatriation's failure is due to the non-integration of a spouse? So how integrate them easily, how help them feel at home in their new country? So it's what we are going to see with Julie. Julie, what was your initial impression of life in France?
Well, Armel, it wasn't very easy to begin with. It was a bit complicated to get my head around all the administrative parts. I mean, the idea of being in Paris was just incredible. It was, Eiffel Tower, the quite typical idea that we have of Paris. However, there were challenges that I wasn't really prepared for. And I think that when you don't know how to handle them or have that support, it becomes quite challenging in order for you to move on and find your place in Paris. Yeah.
So how has it changed since you started learning more about French culture and, of course, about French language?
Completely. I mean, the difference is incredible. I began learning French with Absolutely French, which opened up so many doors. It opened up not only in terms of comprehension of where I was and how I could navigate the city, but also the culture, which I think is the best aspect, I would say, about living in France and in Paris. And I think when you don't know the language, you miss very key parts of what it means to be part of the society and the culture itself. And
do you have an example, for example, for what? Because culture is very a big word.
Yes, it is, and I think that in France it's quite a wide spectrum. So, for example, whether it's history, whether it's movies, films, communication in general, jokes. The humor, understanding the humor. I think it's very important when you.
A little bit different from British people.
yes, exactly.
So you need to adapt.
Exactly. And I think especially the temperament as well, you start to understand the very fine aspects of really communicating on a deeper level as well with other people and meeting other people. I think it's very important.
Okay, thank you. What advice would you give to other expat spouses who are struggling with cultural adaptation?
I would say get out there. I think the biggest thing is to not hesitate to go out, speak to people, even with a little bit of a broken French. I think there is this hesitation, but I think that there's a charm in it as well, and I think it's important to feel that you're not stuck at home and that you're limited. And once you meet people, you also are open to many opportunities, which was the case for me. I think it was the key to my integration, was just going out there and not being afraid to or intimidated to speak the language and meet people this way as well. What are some key aspects of integration? that expatriates often overlook when arriving
So
in France.
you spoke about one, meeting people. So for me, we use network. Network is very important when you arrive in a new country. It's not only because you need to meet people because you feel alone in your new country, you have no friends, no family. So of course it's very difficult for expat spouses to arrive in a new country. They are more alone than the expats. So it's important to understand that as a company. So they need to help so it's good to find them a network or help them have a buddy, for example, in your company that could be with them and answer their questions. So network is key. Not only so to meet people, but also to find informations of all the administrative aspects they need to understand. Or, for example, if how things works in France, it's very difficult for them to understand that what they can do, what they can't do, and this is only with people who have lived the same things here when they arrive, because for French people they already know all of that, but for new expat spouses who arrive and if they share this with also other expat spouses who live the same thing, it's very easy for them to understand the situation and help them say, no, this you can't do it, it's not allowed here. Or for example, in a building you have many bins. They don't know how it's working here in France. It's completely different.
It's different colors. In fact, in England, it's the complete opposite of colors. So you would easily mistake the recycling bin for the actual.
Exactly. And it's not only that. It's also what you do if something happens in your flat. If suddenly you have some water from the top of your head, what do? Which person you are going to ask help? So it's all about that. And so where to find a dog sitter.
Exactly, or if you get locked out, not to fall into the traps.
Yes, so all these little things that are always complicated for. If you have an emergency, what can you do? What do you need to bring with you? All of this. So this you will find the answer with a network, and also when you learn the language, learning the language. So I think it's the key points and cultural aspects for being polite when you enter a shop, all these little things that you don't know if you don't have help to understand.
Can you explain how French language and culture facilitates smoother integration for expat spouses and partners?
Yeah, so when you want to integrate expat spouses, the first thing is the language. If you don't have a language, so usually a lot of companies offer French language, but they usually offer a small amount of hours. They need at least 60 hours to pass one level. So if you offer 20 hours, it's not enough to feel at home, really. They don't have all the vocabulary they need to integrate. So just think of an amount of hours enough to be able to speak with local people. It's very important. And of course, this language will help them ask questions to the others, so they can ask for help if they need. And and when they learn the language, they will understand that be polite in France is very important, and so they discover cultural aspects of life. So language is key, of course, at the beginning.
As someone who welcomes expats into your school, what are some of the common challenges you've found expat partners and spouses face when moving to France, and how does Absolutely French help overcome them?
Yeah, and the most difficult for them is be alone. They really feel alone in their new country. They have no family, no friends, and they don't speak the language. So it's very, very difficult to develop friends, to make friends in Paris, especially in Paris, because Parisian people are very busy. So it's very difficult for them. So I think it's the most company need to understand that they need help to find friends. And the second point is the cultural shock, because we never speak about that, but every people who go abroad have this feeling to feel the cultural shock. And cultural shock is very difficult when you don't speak the language and when you don't have friends. So maybe this, it's when you arrive, everything is fine, it's the honeymoon, you love everything, and then suddenly you go down because you don't understand this weird French people. They don't use the same thing as you do. They don't speak. They don't have the same humor, as you say. So it's very complicated. And you go down. And then when you are down, if you don't have any friends, if you don't speak the language, it's very difficult to go up. So it's important to help them pass through this, because if they don't pass through this, then they will ask to leave the country, and then it will impact your company. So now we finish with the integration aspects. I think it will help your expat spouses integrate in France. And then for the next podcast, we are going to speak about the job career for expat spouses, which will be the next step when for expat spouses they need to integrate and then go to find a job and develop their own career. So we will be happy to see you for the next podcast in Your Expat in France. Thank you.